Hello, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. Thank you for inviting me to talk with you again today. I regret that we weren't able to do this in person, but I'm sure we'll be able to get together in person to visit soon. When the program committee initially approached me about speaking, they said they were interested in hearing about the racial issues I faced working at Lawrence University. And I've been there for almost 5 years now and certainly could tell some stories. But as I was thinking of a theme for this work, I was asked to come to a school out of state to help them deal with some issues that I think really characterize the challenges we're experiencing related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racist work today. What they asked me to address was a situation in which, within their college, they had folks who were, gladly lending their time and talents to the work of anti-racism and social justice and helping to create a living, learning, working environment that was inclusive. But they were being criticized and judged by other folks who were also involved in this work. And to the extent that they really sort of shut people down and made other folks hesitant to be involved in this work. And when we think about the polarization and divisiveness that we're experiencing today, we often think about it between groups who have extremely different ideologies. But what I'm experiencing in this work is really that within groups of people trying to do the work, there's very little tolerance for diversity of ideas or different ways of approaching things. And I've come to find by looking at the research that that is not surprising. That polarization not only puts a rift between people and groups who think differently, but it also makes it less tolerant of differences within our own groups. So people who might call themselves progressive, or working for social justice also have increased antagonism in this climate that we're involved in. So as I worked with this group, tried to help them gain some skills around bridging. We talked about that. But the idea that really came to the surface in this work was this idea of promoting radical respect. And when I started to think about it, I came to understand that this is really what I've been about in this work all the time, is trying to promote this idea of radical respect. And so what does that mean? When we talk about radical respect, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of a Gestalt psychotherapy approach. And in that approach, it's really about affording everyone the right to be seen and heard and to be validated as the unique being that they are. It's especially important to show those with whom we disagree or whom we view as the other in some way this type of respect. Now, because there's nothing radical about respecting people that we know well or that have done things that we think are, prestigious, or people who think well like us. That's easy, to respect them. The radical piece of it is that we show respect and we offer it to everyone simply because of our shared humanity, despite whatever packaging that humanity might be in at the moment. And so how do you do this? This isn't something that really comes naturally to us, and it especially does not come easy these days in these divisive times that we're in. So how do you do it? First of all, you have to be curious about others. And if I think back to my childhood, I was always curious to the point that my parents sometimes were embarrassed when I'd go up to people who might be dressed differently or look differently or speak differently or be differently abled. And I would ask them about it. I know my father told the story of me asking someone who had lost a limb, an amputee, what happened? I wanted to hear the story. And that was curiosity came out of love and interest in that person. And so, being curious about others, being open about others, being willing to hear their stories without judgment. And that also relates to the second aspect of being radically respectful. And that is allowing others their space in the world. I like that idea of just allowing people to be in the world. And there's also some internal work that has to happen when you talk about radical respect. First of all, we have to build the capacity to embrace new ways of knowing, and really be willing to give up those ways of knowing that don't support love and peace. And then secondly, we need to move on in a way that has civility and grace when we do discover that, maybe somebody does not share this philosophy that we have, this belief in our shared humanity. And because that will happen sometimes, realistically, everybody's not going to be in a place where they share these beliefs. And so you don't have to give up your values or act like you don't believe in your values. It's really a matter of developing a way to move on that involves grace and civility, and leaves the door open for that person to become someone who understands our shared humanity. There's a quote from Herman Hesse that I have used over and over again, and I even used it 20 plus years ago when my husband and I renewed our vows for our 10th anniversary. Some of you have met Terry. And it goes like this: "It is not our purpose to become each other. It is to recognize each other, to learn to see the other, and to honor him, her, or them for what they are." And this is something that really speaks to my heart in terms of accepting others where they are, not expecting them to be like us, and really sort of honoring that, as we go through life and as we meet new people, interact with, people at work, home, school, wherever that might be. And, when I think about what has really grounded me in my work to try and promote, this idea of radical respect, something that helped me along was finding this school of thought called Black feminism. I've always sort of been a person who's been open, who's been, willing to accept other people, and really embrace new experiences. But when people would ask me initially early in my career to talk to them about diversity or talk to them about my experiences, I wonder, why do they want to talk to me? I received the same education, sort of white male curriculum that everyone else received. And what I've learned through experience and know now, from this school of thought, is that my perspective is unique, and it is uniquely valuable, because it really helps people understand the lived experience of how different types of intersecting identities and oppressions, play out in the world. And so that's what Black feminist thought is about. The philosophy contends that the experiences of Black women provide a unique perspective on the intersection of multiple hierarchies of oppression. It also posits that race, gender, heterosexism, and class oppression are interdependent. And until we deal with all of those, we won't be able to liberate any folks, who experience those different types of oppression. And so it really, is the embodiment of this idea that none of us are free until all of us are free. And it really helped me put into perspective, the value added, that someone like myself brings to this work of diversity. And, Kimberly Crenshaw is credited with intersectionality and has done wonderful work in terms of critical race theory as it relates to the law. But even before Kimberly Crenshaw, there was a group, the Combahee River Collective, who in the 70s wrote a statement on Black feminism. And for me, there's a sentence or two from their statement that really just says it all. I'm going to share that with you. "We reject pedestals, queenhood, and walking 10 paces behind. To be recognized as human, levelly human, is enough. And I think that's what any of us are looking for. No matter what our, political leanings, no matter what our experience and understanding of marginalization, oppression, discrimination, we are all looking to be treated simply as human, fully human. And so, in doing this work, we all need to be sustained, and it is difficult because people do not want to. Our inclination is not to, accept people without judgment. It's not to engage in radical respect. And so, throughout my career, throughout my life, this has been an uphill battle. Sure, I've certainly been privileged to be able to do this work and make a decent living. But, as you all know, this is hard work. And as I opened with, there's even fighting within this work about how to go about it in the best way. And so we all need to be grounded spiritually. And so the philosophy that has really helped me with this work on a spiritual basis is this idea of secular Buddhism. And as you all probably know, this is a non-dogmatic way of understanding and practicing Buddhism. It has at its center, the tenets of the philosophy, which are understanding the nature of reality, the nature of suffering, and letting go of the causes of suffering through methods of mindfulness. And this idea of decreasing suffering in myself and other folks really ties in well and supports this idea of radical respect, respecting all of us because of our basic humanity. It also, this idea of mindfulness also ties in well to diminishing implicit bias, that sort of, knee-jerk reaction we have to fear and stereotype other folks. And so, there's been lots of research done on mindfulness and its impact on, reducing implicit bias. And so this really is another method and really something that sustains me as part of my self-care is this practice of secular Buddhism. And so, these philosophies, even before I knew their names, I think were part of who I was as a person. As a child, sort of that curiosity and openness that I talked about. There's my alarm going off, telling me I'm almost out of time. As a child, that curiosity, I talked about. As a young adult, learning about marginalization, systemic oppression, and sort of finding my way in that. It's these philosophies, both the Black feminism and the secular Buddhism, have really played a significant role in sustaining me in this work. And, as a professional, another concept that's been key is understanding my power as the outsider within. Somebody who has a perspective that is not sort of the mainstream, dominant culture perspective, but I get to be in those spaces. And so how can I help to change those spaces and make a way for others who are different as well to enter them and change them too? And so these philosophies, these schools of thought have really influenced, supported, and sustained me in trying to do this difficult work of advocating for us to treat each other with radical respect. And so in closing, I would really like to share a quote from a Black feminist who most of you have heard of, Audre Lorde. And I'm going to paraphrase a familiar quotation of hers. For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. I urge each one of us here to reach down into that deep place of knowledge inside herself and touch that terror and loathing of any difference that lives there and let it go. We often talk about the courage to fight, and I see fighting as the master's tools, one of those master's tools, but I'm encouraging you to have the courage to treat people with radical respect. Thank you.